The wind howled through the old bus station, carrying with it the faint scent of diesel and rain. Passengers hurried past, clutching their bags, focused on catching their rides before dusk. But no one noticed the little girl sitting quietly on a wooden bench near the corner, her small hands gripping a worn teddy bear, her shoes soaked, her cheeks streaked with tears. She couldn't have been older than 3. Her name tag was blank. No one seemed to know who she was, or who had left her there. It was October 1994, in a small town just outside Columbus, Ohio. The police report later described the moment she was found. Female child, approximately 3 years old, brown hair, blue eyes, clutching a stuffed bear. No signs of injury. No parent or guardian located. The man who found her, a 47-year-old bus driver named Harold Jenkins, said he had seen a tall man in a gray coat walking away moments earlier. He couldn't recall the man's face, only that he seemed to look back once before disappearing into the parking lot. That was the last lead the police ever had. The girl was taken to a local shelter, where social workers named her Emily. Days passed. No one came forward. The case was broadcast on local television. Flyers were posted in nearby cities, and even the FBI got involved. But there was no trace. No missing child matching her description. No family searching for her. Then, one afternoon, a young teacher named Martha Reynolds came to visit the shelter. She had been volunteering there for months, bringing food and toys for the children. But that day, she stopped at Emily's crib and felt something stir inside her. Something deeper than compassion. Emily looked up, her blue eyes wide and searching. She didn't cry, she didn't smile. She just stared, as if she was trying to recognize something familiar in Martha's face. "I'll take care of her," Martha whispered to the social worker beside her. "No child deserves to wait this long for love." And so, after months of paperwork and home visits, the adoption was approved. Emily was officially given a new home, a new family, and a new beginning. Martha lived in a cozy house with a small garden, where the scent of lilacs filled the air in spring. She was patient, kind, and soft-spoken, the kind of woman who could make any house feel like a sanctuary. Under her care, Emily began to smile again. But there were nights when the past wouldn't let her sleep. She would wake up crying, clutching the teddy bear tighter. Sometimes she muttered a name, one Martha couldn't quite understand. "Who is Anna?" Martha asked gently one night. Emily only shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. As the years went by, the memories faded, but never disappeared. Emily grew into a bright, curious girl with a deep sense of empathy, always helping others, always afraid to be left alone. She didn't know why she felt that way, but somewhere deep inside, she carried a wound that no one could see. And somewhere out there, someone still remembered the day he left her behind. Little did she know, nearly 3 decades later, the truth about that man, and the reason for her abandonment, would arrive at her door in the form of a single letter. But not yet. First, Emily had to live the life that would lead her back to the mystery she had been running from all along. If you're already hooked by Emily's story, hit the like button and subscribe, because what happens next will change everything she thought she knew about her past. Emily grew up surrounded by warmth, laughter, and the gentle presence of Martha, who dedicated her life to giving the girl everything she never had herself: safety, routine, and unconditional love. But even as the years went by, an invisible thread seemed to pull Emily toward a past she couldn't fully remember. Every year, on the anniversary of her adoption, Martha would bake a vanilla cake and decorate it with pink frosting. She called it Emily's New Beginning Day. Yet Emily never saw it as a celebration. Deep down, it reminded her that her beginning had come from an ending, one she still didn't understand. Sometimes in the middle of class she'd get flashes, a man's voice whispering a "wait here," the smell of gasoline, a woman crying in the distance, the sound of buses pulling away. The memories were like broken glass, sharp, scattered, impossible to piece together without pain. One afternoon when Emily was 10, she found herself digging through an old box in Martha's attic. Inside were adoption papers, a few clippings from local newspapers, and her old teddy bear, now missing one eye. But there was something else that caught her attention. a small yellow tag sewn onto the bear's arm. The stitching was faint, but she could make out a few letters. AR. "Mom," she called out. "Who's AR?" Martha froze for a moment before answering. "I'm not sure, honey, maybe the initials of whoever made the toy." But the way her voice trembled made Emily wonder if her mother was hiding something. Still, she didn't push. Martha had given her everything: love, education, security. If there were things she didn't want to talk about, Emily respected that. Years later, as she entered high school, Emily became fascinated with psychology and human behavior. Her teachers said she had a rare gift for understanding people. What they didn't know was that her empathy came from a lifelong fear of being abandoned again. She had few friends and trusted even fewer. When someone got too close, she'd pull away. The idea of losing someone was worse than being alone. And yet she often wondered, who had she lost before? One night, unable to sleep, she took out her teddy bear and stared at the faded initials again. AR. She whispered, "Were you mine? Or was I yours?" Martha, now in her early 50s, grew worried. She'd caught Emily browsing online forums for missing children, reading about cold cases, even contacting old newspapers asking about archives from 1994. One evening at dinner, Martha finally said softly, "Emily, some answers don't heal you. They break you." Emily looked up, her eyes steady. "Maybe, but I think it's time I decide which ones I'm willing to break for." It was the first time Martha had ever seen that fire in her eyes, a mix of determination and quiet sadness. Then, life went on. Emily graduated, went to college, and became a social worker, helping children who had gone through abandonment just like she once had. She thought she had finally made peace with her past. But fate wasn't done with her. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, nearly 3 decades after that cold day at the bus station, Emily opened her mailbox to find a single white envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten letter. It began with 3 words that made her blood run cold. "I never meant to." Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper, revealing lines written in a shaky, desperate hand. The person who wrote it knew things no one else could. The color of the bench she had been sitting on that day, the scar on her left knee, and the name Anna, which she had whispered in her sleep as a child. Emily sat on her couch, the letter shaking in her hands. She read the last line over and over. "Before I die, you deserve to know the truth." Emily couldn't sleep that night. The letter sat on her kitchen table, illuminated by the flickering light of a half-burned candle. Every word replayed in her mind, whispering questions she didn't have answers for. Who wrote it? Why now? And what truth could possibly justify abandoning a 3-year-old child at a bus station? The postmark was from Cleveland, Ohio, just 2 hours away. No name, no return address. Only the faint smell of old paper and something like perfume, though it was hard to tell after so many years. The next morning, Emily did what she always did when her mind was racing. She worked. She threw herself into helping the children at the social center where she volunteered. But that day, every small face she saw reminded her of herself. Alone. Waiting. During her lunch break, she pulled the letter from her bag and read it again. This time, she noticed something she hadn't before. An indentation at the bottom of the page, like a phone number written and then erased. She shaded over it with a pencil until the digits appeared. 216. 574921. She hesitated for hours before dialing. Her hand shook so badly that she almost dropped her phone. "Hello?" A frail female voice answered. Emily swallowed hard. I received a letter. I think you sent it." A long pause followed. Then, the voice cracked softly. "You grew up safe, didn't you?" Emily's breath caught. "Who is this?" "I can't talk long," the woman whispered. "They never wanted you to know. I wasn't supposed to write. But I'm dying, Emily. I can't leave this world without telling you the truth." "Who are you?" Emily demanded, her voice trembling. "My name was never meant to reach you," the woman said, coughing. "But you once called me Anna." The name hit her like lightning. Anna, The word she had mumbled as a child, the name Martha had never understood. "Are you saying you're my mother?" Emily's voice broke. Another silence. Then, a sob on the other end. "I tried to protect you." That man at the bus station wasn't a stranger, Emily. He was your uncle. He was supposed to take you to safety, but something went wrong. Emily's knees weakened. She sank to the floor, gripping the phone as if her life depended on it. Safety from what? What happened to you? "I can't say over the phone," Anna whispered. "There are people who—" A sudden knock echoed in the background. Then another. Harder this time. "Anna!" Emily cried. But the line had gone dead. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily sat there for minutes, maybe hours, trying to process what had just happened. Her mind spun between disbelief and hope. Her mother was alive. After 29 years. But why had she waited so long? And who was she afraid of? That night, Emily called the number again. But it had been disconnected. No voicemail, no trace. The next morning, she drove to Cleveland. She didn't tell anyone where she was going, not even Martha. She needed answers, and she wasn't going to stop until she got them. After several hours of searching, she found an address linked to the phone number, an old apartment building on the east side of the city. The building looked abandoned, the paint peeling, windows cracked. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again. Then a neighbor, an older man in a faded baseball cap, stepped out from across the hall. "You looking for Anna Ross?" he asked. Emily froze. "Yes, do you know her?" He nodded slowly. "She lived here for years. Sweet woman, kept to herself. But, I'm sorry, miss. She passed away 2 nights ago." Emily felt the world tilt. "What?" "She left something with the building manager," the man continued. "Said a young woman might come looking for her. Told him to give it to her when she did." Emily's heart pounded as she followed him down the hall. There, inside a dusty envelope marked for Emily Reynolds, was a small silver key, and a note that simply read, "Everything is in locker 23, bus station, Columbus." The same station where she had been abandoned 29 years ago. The drive back to Columbus felt endless. The wind howled against Emily's car as she gripped the steering wheel, her thoughts racing faster than the road beneath her tires. The letter, the phone call, the key, it all pointed back to one place. The same station where it had all begun. When she finally arrived, dusk was settling over the city. The bus terminal looked almost the same as in the old photos from the police report. The same cracked tiles, the same faded benches. Time had moved on, but the ghosts hadn't. She parked, tucked the silver key into her pocket, and stepped inside. Her footsteps echoed softly against the empty hall. A few travelers waited quietly near Gate 7. To her right, a row of metal lockers stood against the wall, numbers etched and rusted with age. She found it almost immediately. Locker 23. Her heart pounded. The metal was cold beneath her fingertips. She inserted the key, turned it. Click. The sound was small, but to Emily it felt like thunder. Inside was a brown shoebox wrapped with a faded red ribbon. She took it to a nearby bench, her hands trembling as she lifted the lid. Inside were photographs, newspaper clippings, and a small cassette tape labeled "For Emily." The first photo showed a young woman, Anna, holding a baby in her arms. Her eyes were the same shade of blue as Emily's. There was love in that look, fierce, protective love. The second photo made her stomach drop. It showed Anna with a man in uniform, a police officer. On the back, someone had written, "Detective Mark Reynolds, 1993. Reynolds, the same last name Martha had given her. Emily's pulse quickened. Her adoptive mother's last name hadn't been random, it was his. She took a deep breath and read the letter folded beneath the photos. "My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you everything myself. But you deserve to know the truth. I was 19 when I had you. Your father, Mark Reynolds, was a police officer. Married at the time. I never meant to ruin his life, but when I found out I was pregnant, he told me to disappear. He promised he'd help, but when you were born, he changed. He said you'd destroy his career, his family. I couldn't let him hurt you. The night I left you, my brother was supposed to drive us both away. But Mark found us first. I begged him not to take you from me. He said he'd handle it. The next morning you were gone. He told me you'd been placed in care, that it was better this way. I believed him. When I tried to find you years later, he threatened me. Told me to stay silent or I'd lose everything. I never stopped looking, Emily. I never stopped loving you. If you still have that teddy bear, the initials AR aren't mine. They're his. Mark Reynolds. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her father, her adoptive mother's husband, the man who had handled everything. She remembered Martha's hesitation when she'd asked about the bear, the way her voice had trembled. The truth came crashing down all at once. Martha had known. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to keep the secret buried for nearly 30 years. Emily's hands shook as she pulled out the cassette tape. It was old, but she found a way to play it on her phone using a small adapter. The tape crackled. Then a woman's voice, soft, trembling, filled the air. Emily, it's me. Anna. If you ever find this, please don't hate Martha. She didn't know how much he had done. She saved you from him, even if she never realized it. I only wanted you safe. I only ever wanted you safe. Tears streamed down Emily's face. The sound of her mother's voice, real, alive, gentle, broke something open inside her that had been locked away since that day at the station. She sat there for a long time, listening to the tape again and again until her heart steadied. Then she stood, the shoebox in her arms, and whispered, "It's time to go home." But home wasn't the same anymore. It was a place filled with love and lies, and she needed to know which had come first. The night Emily drove home from Columbus, rain poured so heavily it blurred the world outside her windshield. Her heart felt heavier than the storm, a storm that had been gathering inside her since the day she was found at that bus station. When she pulled into Martha's driveway, the lights in the house were still on. Martha was waiting by the window, her face pale, her eyes tired, as if she already knew what was coming. Emily stepped inside, drenched and trembling, the shoebox clutched to her chest. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the rain tapping softly against the windows. Martha finally broke the silence. "You found her, didn't you?" Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, I found Anna." Martha closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. "She loved you so much." Emily took a deep breath, her voice shaking. "You knew." Martha didn't deny it. Not at first, but later. "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" Martha turned toward her, her hands trembling. "Because I thought he'd already paid for what he did, and because I was afraid you'd hate me for taking you." Emily stared at her, confusion and grief battling inside her. "Taking me? Martha, I don't—" Martha sank into the couch, her voice breaking. "He brought you to me, Emily. Your father. He came to my house one night, in uniform. Said a little girl had been abandoned, that the system couldn't take her right away. He begged me to keep you for a few days until things settled. I didn't know who you were, I didn't know what he'd done." Emily's pulse raced. "You mean, he didn't just arrange the adoption?" "No," Martha whispered. "He forged it." The room went silent. Martha looked down, her voice small. "By the time I realized what he'd done, you were already mine in every way that mattered. I wanted to tell you. I almost did so many times. But I thought the truth would destroy you. You finally had peace. I couldn't take that away." Emily felt dizzy. Everything she had believed about her life, her adoption, her name, her family, was unraveling. And yet, through the chaos, one truth stood firm. Martha had loved her, not as a stand-in, not as a duty, but as a mother. "Why did Anna say you saved me?" Emily asked softly. Martha wiped her tears. "Because when he came back that night, he wanted to take you away again. Said he'd found someone else to handle it. But I refused. I told him if he touched you again, I'd go to the police. He left, and I never saw him after that." The silence that followed was long and fragile. Emily sat down beside her, setting the shoebox on the table. She opened it and pulled out the photo of Anna holding her as a baby. She didn't stop loving me, Martha. She was trying to protect me. Both of you were. Martha's lip trembled. I always feared the day you'd hate me. Emily looked at her, her eyes full of tears, but not anger. You gave me love. She gave me life. Maybe I was never meant to choose between you. They sat together, the storm outside slowly fading into quiet. Later that week, Emily stood at Anna's grave in Cleveland. She placed the one-eyed teddy bear at the base of the headstone and whispered, I found you, Mom, and I forgive him. The wind blew softly through the trees, carrying her words away, as if Anna was listening. When Emily returned home, she framed a photo of both women side by side, Anna with her newborn daughter and Martha with a smiling little girl. Beneath it, she wrote 3 words in silver ink. Love never hides. Sometimes the truth we spend our lives chasing isn't meant to destroy our past, but to heal it. Love can wear many faces, but its essence never changes. It protects, forgives, and finds its way home. If Emily's story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Someone out there might need this reminder. Family isn't always about blood. It's about love.